Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fantasy Studs and Suds. I am Jeffrey Crisp, and alongside of me is my co-host, CJ Pudge LaPage. Must immediately apologize. Unfortunately, I am along with Pudge in the same location, so there is that echo in the background. We will try to minimize that as much as possible. So our segment today will include Fantasy Studs, our headliners over the past week, Fantasy Leagues, auction drafts and etiquette, Fantasy Priority, the NFL schedule, and we will talk about a few select games that Pudge and I have. Fantasy Suds, our selections for beer of the week, and then Fantasy Funds, drinking and drafting. So, Pudge, how are you doing today? You are muted.
Sorry about that. It is glorious. It feels like summer finally, and got a little shine on the face, ready to rock and roll. Summer's here, so summer in Michigan it's a great time.
Well, I think for a lot of people in Michigan, summer meant something completely different yesterday as we had severe storms and tornadoes rolling through much of the state. We had over a 250,000 customers without power down around my area. We got hit, particularly hard. Fortunately, nothing for me personally, but I do have some friends who did get impacted by those storms. Michigan typically doesn't get as many tornadoes as they have in an entire year that we have this year and counting. So, but today is an absolutely beautiful day. It's a great day for baseball. I'm going to a game later today. So hence why I am here hanging out with you, and we'll move forward. So this past week, Derek Carr announced his retirement. Pudge, is it now showtime for Shuck?
Shuck is going to throw a lot of ducks. He's old. He's Brandon Whedon 2.0. We've done this time and time again with these quarterbacks that are just way past their age apex for coming into the league. The biggest ones is Brandon Whedon, and then the Lions, they took Hendon Hooker, and he was quite a bit older than the rest of the prospects, and it just never works out for second round wide receivers. If they're good enough to go in the first round, they go in the first round. Second round wide receivers, they never really pan out for fantasy perspectives.
Well, for me, I think, Shuck obviously going a little bit of that Steve Sachs syndrome. I suffered from that actually my junior year in high school playing baseball. It's something that, the video that is circulating, the very infamous video that's circulating of him missing a receiver during his workout was something that, has a lot of people worried. I also think that the competition there in New Orleans is something that, there's no guarantee that he's going to play. For me, it's whatever gets Olave and Shaheed, working or playing well, that's going to be making me happy. I just don't know if Shuck is going to be the one. The Bengals, their defense, how are you feeling about them?
What defense? Literally, Shamar Stewart still unsigned. That's their number one rookie. We had Lions rookies in camp that were unsigned, and they were playing ball. They were out there for rookie minicamp. The things that go on for the Bengals, they aren't allowed at other organizations, and I don't understand why. It's a continuous thing, and they're known for like bungling these these deals. They could have had him cheaper than Micah Parsons, and now they've got to pay Trey Hendrickson, and they can't agree to their rookie, who is already missing out on valuable snaps. And you got Trey Hendrickson. He's owed $15.8 million, and he's got 1 year left on his contract, and he said he's not going to play. And per the collective bargaining agreement that the players are very, very well aware of, he's getting threatening texts from his coach. Like, have some tact. I don't see what the Bengals are doing right now. They go and set these new deals with the wide receivers in Burrow, and all of a sudden you got a retiring Sam Hubbard. You have a holding out Trey Hendrickson and a holding out Shamar Stewart. I don't understand what's going on over there.
Well, I don't have much to add as it relates to the Bengals defense, other than the fact that I am looking forward to the Bengals defense falling apart in week 5 for their matchup against the Lions at Paycor Stadium. So that is something, I think Bengals over the last few years, they've relied upon their offense. Obviously, they have a high octane offense. I just like using that term, but they have a high octane offense that has, really allowed them to stay in games. But without a defense, I think, it makes it very difficult for that team to compete. Fortunately, they're, in a division where the Browns continue to hold them up. But when you're, when you go against the Steelers, who always seem to find a way to win games, and then of course you have the Ravens, it's very difficult to find yourself on the positive side of contests or of the standings when you have to outscore everybody in every contest.
I got one more thing to add with Cincinnati.
You are muted again.
There we go. Sorry. And they could honestly be in a brand new place. They could not be the Cincinnati Bengals in 2027. They are under contract. They're looking for a new deal for a stadium. So I don't know if this kind of stuff plays into the city or what, but they need to get their act together.
Yeah, I find it difficult to, see the Bengals anywhere else other than Cincy. As we talked about last week, teams, especially in the NFL, that move outside their cities, it's always possible they could end up somewhere, north, closer to Dayton or even south in Kentucky. But I can't see them leaving the Cincinnati area. But it will be very interesting to watch how that plays out over the next several months. So 31-year-old Derrick Henry signed a 2-year extension with the Baltimore Ravens. Pudge, what is your take on this contract?
Well, he's going to be a fantasy star for another 2 years. If Baltimore feels that he is available and he's going to be able to tilt the rock that much, their eyes are on him daily. The guy is a machine. He takes care of his body like a lot of other pro athletes don't. He's very, very self-conscious of what he puts inside of his body. He's very, very self-conscious on how he trains. But for fantasy purposes, go grab him. Because it's wheels up. He's going to run the ball just like he did last year. He's not going to be – I don't think he's got the 1 overall in his outcome anymore. I think that's behind him. But on that offense with Lamar, and they have to pick their poison, they can't stack the box against him and then leave Lamar just run the option. It's going to be a great season for him. And it's going to be a injury aside. He'll be a top 5 back.
So would you, if you were in a dynasty startup right now, would you take a shot at him, even though he may only have those last 2 seasons?
That would really depend on my first round pick. If I can get a wide receiver early, if you can get your CeeDee Lamb, your Justin Jefferson, your Brian Thomas Jr.'s, Malik Neighbors, if you can get those guys and follow it up with him in the second round, that's a winning recipe right there. I know that a lot of guys they like to hit those wide receivers really, really hard in the first 3 rounds. But if you don't go super flex and he's available early, and you already have your wide receivers locked up, take a swing, enjoy the ride, get your championship, and then, pivot when you got to pivot, but ride him off into the sunset.
Yeah, I would definitely take a shot at him. As again, depending on, I would definitely take a look at what happens in those first 15, 16 selections. I wouldn't go any earlier than, say, 16 on him, but I would definitely take a swing, as you said, if he were available. And I had a good feeling after those first picks. As far as the contrast concerned, for me, it's kind of pleasing because, while running back compensation still pales kind of in comparison to other skill positions, I'm finally glad to see the resurgence of backs as an important role in the NFL offenses. Everybody kind of relegated the running back, to a nothing position. It was secondary. They didn't quite fall to the level of kickers in most eyes, but it was getting pretty close. And it's great to see that teams recognize that you have to have a solid running game. You can't just pass all the time. And so having solid backs, a complement of backs to help your offense is absolutely important. So that really makes me excited to see that over the last 2 seasons. So teams may be doling out more of the budget for running backs these days, but managing your budget in auction leagues is only one concern during your draft. So recently, I have become reacquainted with auction draft leagues. I've always preferred auction drafts, but it's very difficult finding like-minded individuals. Most want the comfort of a serpentine draft, and I understand that. Auction drafts do take a little extra work and a little extra study. Skill is necessary in serpentine startups and redraft leagues, especially in the later rounds. But if you're at 112 in a serpentine draft, you're reasonably certain which players are going to be available to you and what you're going to do when you are on the clock. What I like about auction drafts is you control your own destiny. You're only limited by your budget. There's definitely a level of strategy beyond snake drafts, and you can be forced to pivot more frequently and quickly depending on how the first few selections pan out. So the one thing about auction drafts is they've been very limited in how they're operated. I'm reasonably new to my fantasy league. I think we've talked about that quite frequently. Pudge, I don't believe you're on MFL, but I've come to really, really appreciate MFL's power. And one of the things I love is MFL when it comes to auction slow drafts. The multiple nominations brings an entirely different dynamic to auctions. And again, I've dealt a little bit with that already this season as it relates to some of the Fantasy Cares Eliminators, as well as a couple of the leagues that I've joined this year. But depending on your roster, bids, and other factors, you may find yourself changing targets on the fly only to end up on a previously abandoned player. I've done that in some of my drafts as well. Thought, hey, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to move to this player, make a few bids, get outbid, and then I find myself back to a player that I wasn't considering previously. So I've really come to appreciate how MFL deals with auction drafts. And then, quite frankly, after MFL, I doubt I'll do an auction any other way. Pudge, I know it's been some time since you last played in an auction draft league. What were your thoughts about your experience with auction draft?
Tried and true, stars and scrubs. I just can't help myself from bidding on those players that I don't usually get. If I can concoct a core of 4 or 5 guys and play the waiver, I love it. Obviously, you have the CMCs that lie all summer long, and you draft them, and they don't play, and then you spent all that money on a player that's not even out there. But I mean, that's part of injuries, part of the game. You can't account for it. Other than that, the guys that are going to be great. They're the guys that are great every single year. You got the new incoming rookies that are usually pretty good. But you can usually tell you don't have a lot of Bucky Irvings. But that's where auction draft is fun. If you have a hinkling on a guy like Bucky and Kyron Williams, year previous, and you hit, you also get that guy dirt cheap. I mean, you get him for next to nothing, and you get to spend a bunch more and upgrade a position. Let's say it's tight end premium. You go from tight end 5 to tight end 3 or 4. That's a lot of points that you're putting in your back pocket and putting a little faith in the little guys like Bucky and Kyren, Justin Jefferson. Even I don't think anybody really expected him to do what he did.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. I think, when we talk about serpentine drafts, you're talking about the importance of nailing those late round picks, being able to find the diamonds in the rough for those individuals, those sleepers that others may not be willing to take a chance on. And so when you find those in the late rounds and you hit on those are gold and could definitely lead you to a championship. I think the same is true with auction. If you're going to go stars and scrubs approach, obviously you need to have a game plan for the scrubs that you're going to target, because obviously not all scrubs are created equally. And I think if you have a game plan where those players that you think you can get for, $1, $2, $3 late, I think that allows you to exhaust more of your budget early on. The other thing I like about auction drafts, you were talking before, if you had a successful season the prior season, you have no chance at someone like Ashton Jante. Unless you trade up and into that 101 spot, you were going to get him. But with auction, again, you're limited by your budget. And some dynasty rookie drafts for auction have, everybody has the same budget. Other ones, have a smaller budget for those teams that have, the better you did the previous season, the smaller the budget you have. Regardless, you still have an opportunity, because a last place team who has a greater budget isn't going to be able to spend it all on one player. They may have a lot of holes to fill. So they're looking at different players. That's the kind of strategy that I miss. I miss playing auction. I miss the auction drafts. It's been quite a few years until recently that I've been involved in it. And so I think from my perspective, the different level of strategy and the different level of consideration you have on these players and how you approach it. And the fact, like I said, when you're in a serpentine draft, you kind of know where you're going to land with your picks. When you go into an auction draft, you have no idea how it's going to go. And I like that. I think it's exciting. And I think it affords a GM an opportunity to make moves that they couldn't otherwise handle. Now, whether fast or slow when it comes to auction draft, just like Serpentine, the clock plays an important role in auction. Of course, when each bid resets the clock, selections can definitely take time, and this is especially true with slow auctions. Now, whether for fast or slow, 15 years ago or today, there is nothing more frustrating for a GM than to watch the clock wind down to the final few seconds or minutes in a slow draft, only to have someone raise the stakes. It can definitely put some GMs on tilt. But the debate rages on whether there's an unwritten rule in Auction League Moss that guides GMs to not enter a bid before the expiration of the clock, but after a certain amount of time has been extinguished. So, Pudge, how do you feel about this? Do you think there comes a certain point of time when the clock is still ticking, but after which no additional bid should be made?
I mean, have you played blackjack before? And you bid on the wrong card? It's the same thing. It's etiquette. Auction etiquette it's a real thing. And you can really ruffle some feathers if whether you want to or you're not trying to. And I never like to alienate trade partners because I like to trade. But
You do.
But there is a time where you should not bid on a player unless all of a sudden you didn't think that you could have this guy. If you haven't bid the whole time and then all of a sudden you're just trying to push the bid up, that's a good way to get caught too. I've seen guys push the bid up and then they get stuck with some guy that they did not expect to be part of their team, and now they're pivoting with less money on their budget. So never go into an auction league with the idea that you are going to push the pile. I know I don't. A lot of people do. They have fun with it. They like it. But that's yeah, Justin. So we are in a fantasy league with the Fantasy Now Plus gentlemen, and yours truly, Sean, over here. He got stuck with Tyler Warren in a 2-round $500 max bid, and it was kind of ugly to see Tyler Warren go in the first 2 rounds of an auction draft. It felt good because I nominated him, but no, it's a bad feeling when you get stuck with that player. Just ask Sean.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some transactions that in auction where when you get into defensive bidding, where you're running up the bid to try to keep somebody from bidding, it can be problematic. But I think that's a part of drafting when you're in auction. Now, if you're waiting until the last minute, especially in a fast draft, if you're waiting, the clock ticks down, it's 2 minutes, and you wait till 5 seconds and then you bump it up and you're continuously doing that, I can see where that can be problematic. And I can certainly empathize with those who assert some drafters intentionally wait just before 000 to enter their bids, and or even those bidders that seem to target 1 or 2 GMs in the league. I get that. But, I think when it comes to certain bids, if I've been in an auction where I've seen a player or a GM, who has 3 solid players and is bidding for a 4th, and it's like I've bid on that player just to try to prevent them from getting that player. However, I wasn't constantly waiting until the last minute to up it by $1 to see if I could if I could take it from them. If they bid, I was bidding right away. So I can understand what people, I can understand some of the complaints about the clock, but should there be league rules to control this? If so, how do you do that? How would you implement a league rule to control people from waiting it out intentionally to bid at the last minute?
Personally, no. I don't want that guy in my league. That's the guy that can never agree with anyone. The super contrarian gentleman in the group, and that's fine for his personality. But no, there doesn't need to be. There's unwritten rules for a reason. There's etiquette. We're not cavemen. I mean, some of us are, but me personally. But have a little. I know that I always say that common sense is not common; it's common taught. But some people don't have good teachers, and those guys are the ribbers, the antagonists in the group. And sometimes the group is better without them.
I can understand that, and I agree. When you have somebody who's purposely trying to, poke the bear, so to speak, I understand that may not be a person you want in your league. But I'm not certain if there's a minimally subjective way or method to determine if there was an infraction. How do you decide when somebody has gone too far, and how do you establish rules to address that? And if you don't want that person in the league, what is the position that you're taking with that person that doesn't make the league GM or the commissioner sound like they are, they're being, overbearing or unreasonable with that GM? I've been thinking about this over the last week. I've seen some things and have read some things recently on Discord and elsewhere. And it's, I don't know how you do that. And that's kind of and if there's someone out there who has dealt with this in the past or has created a league rule or a situation that has addressed this, we'd love to hear from you. So, please, please respond to us. And what's that?
I got some. How do you make subjective rules? Everything's supposed to be objective. I mean, if you have to start making subjective rules where you have to make the call, I don't think that's no, it shouldn't be part of the fantasy football Bible, or it doesn't belong.
Well, again, and I agree with what you're saying. All rules in some way, shape, or form have a little bit of subjectivity. Nothing can be 100% completely objective. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's exactly what I'm stating when it comes to this. How do you develop a rule that is going to apply to someone who is running out the clock before bidding? Then again, you say, okay, well, hey, the only way I can figure is, okay, well, within a certain amount of time, you can no longer bid. Or, hey, you're only allowed to bid so many times on a player. I think, and to me, those rules run contrary to what auction drafts are all about. So, in the end, the most unbiased, objective method of managing auction selection is the clock itself. So all bids are valid until the clock expires and the system stops allowing bids. Whether it upsets a GM or whether someone is at that last second and someone then throws in a bid and starts the clock all over again, I don't know how else you do it. There's a reason for the clock. There's a reason you establish 2 minutes or 12 hours or whatever it may be for an auction clock, but that is the time. And a person has that much time to make a decision on whether they want to place a bid. It's no different than in a serpentine draft when you got a clock going on in a slow draft. If it's 12 hours and someone's taking 11 hours, 30 minutes, 11 hours, 30 minutes to make their selection, I mean, again, that's going to upset a lot of GMs. But in the end, that is the clock. So I don't know how you manage that unless you go back to time banks, like we can discuss on another show. But, to me, the clock is scheduled. The clock is the rule, and therefore that is the rule that should be followed. So earlier this week, the clock ticked down to the schedule we've waited for all month, the NFL schedule. So Wednesday evening was the official release of the 2025 NFL schedule. If you're watching this, you all know that. In addition to the usual schedule leaks hitting the internet beginning Monday, there were several teasers the NFL allowed on various network shows. Just as an aside, I wasn't a fan of that, but it was what it was. Most of the Lions schedule, however, wasn't leaked until early Wednesday, so I was left wondering where we stood. The dates and times for 272 games are announced. There are rivalries specific to teams and games that are renewed showdowns from recent battles won or lost. But what games have the greatest appeal, not only for our NFL fandom, but for fantasy? As a fan of the NFL, Pudge, which games stand out for you?
I love the fact that we're going to Ireland. With the Steelers, I didn't know that their fandom had really expanded over there like it did. So I am really excited about the Steelers going over there. I am stoked about the Brazil game. It's going to be a high scoring. Can you beat Mahomes and the Eagles over there? It's going to put the NFL exactly where they want to be, and that's on the front page of everything. The fantasy points in that game alone should be, well, assuming that Kansas City's defense is going to take a step back, and our guy over there, Jalen Royals, is going to light it up while Rashee Rice mends his knee. But you're going to see Noah Gray step up. I don't think Kelsey is going to do very good. It's going to be a big ground game for them as well. I think it's going to be a great time. And then on the other side of that, you got the Chargers and one of the most electric backs coming out of North Carolina, Marion Hampton. I mean, everybody's got rookie fever this time of year. You get to see Ladd McConkey take another step forward, hopefully. He's a special dude. If he could not get himself blown up on every single play and it looked like he's about to play his last play, I would be a much bigger McConkey fan. But I think that offense, and it's a division game over there for Brazil for the first international game. And then you got the Vikings and Steelers, as I mentioned, over in Ireland. We know what the Steelers are going to do, right? They're going to run the ball, maybe throw some deep shots to DK. But it's going to be a Pat Freiermuth and DK kind of day. On the other side of that, you're going to see a JJ McCarthy, hopefully, mature, and he'll redshirt year for him, but I really think that that Jefferson, Aaron Jones, all those guys are really going to light it up, and I think it's going to be a really, really fun time over there in Ireland.
I personally like the expansion of the international schedule for the NFL. I know there are some people who are opposed to the games played overseas. I think anything that could showcase a sport that is predominantly a U.S. sport is exceptional. I think more people embrace it. I think having these games in these locations also provide an opportunity for the expansion of fantasy football. And I think it's something that that's welcomed. I think especially if the NFL moves to an 18-game schedule, which of course we know that the Players Union will not appreciate, but if they were to move to an 18-game schedule, especially with double bye weeks, if that is introduced, that would open up greater opportunity for the NFL to schedule some of these additional games internationally. I think they would be able to allow teams to travel, give them the opportunity to rest, and it would continue to expand the product across the globe. And so I continue to look forward to the locations that they choose, and having this one in Ireland is absolutely excellent. So for me, one of the I looked at the NFL schedule, and like you said, a lot of games. There's division rivalries. There's a lot of different games that I chose, and I had a whole bunch of them. And I quite frankly just randomly selected a few of the ones that I probably could have sat here and rattled off 15 different contests I'd want to watch, but I just kind of randomly selected 4 that I thought are going to be quite intriguing. The first one is in week 1, where the Baltimore Ravens are at the Buffalo Bills. This is a game right off week 1 that is going to feature 2 teams that are most likely going to be deep playoff contenders. And, either one of these teams could represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So I'm really looking forward to that first game right out of the chute. Then in week 2,
don't forget about those 2 MVPs.
Absolutely.
I mean, you got Josh Allen that almost took the MVP, and then you got Lamar there. So that to me is going to be awesome.
Yeah. I can't disagree. I think this is going to be an excellent game. I think, especially with the Detroit Lions on the road in week 1, I'll be in my basement watching games on NFL Red Zone and on my TVs. So this one will definitely, if it is broadcast, which I'm sure it will be, I'll be watching that one exclusively. I think that's going to be an excellent game. Again, I won't call it a tone setter because, again, one of these teams will have to lose, and it's not going to mean anything come the end of the season. It's going to be one loss, but I think it's really going to be an exceptional way to kick off the season. To me, a lot better week 1 contest than the Thursday night game between Philadelphia and Dallas.
Yeah, it's Philadelphia and Dallas, though. I mean, it's division. They have bad blood, and for me, it is like Chicago and Detroit, or Green Bay and Detroit. I mean, those guys, they get juiced up, and sparks fly, and I just seeing them chatter at each other right before the game, all the way up until the whistle blows. It's usually a very, very exciting day.
Cannot disagree. And speaking of the Eagles, we'll talk about week 2 because that's a contest, which is the rematch of the Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Philadelphia traveling to Kansas City in week 2, so I'm definitely looking forward to that contest. And then week 8, the Washington Commanders at the Chiefs. Again, this was a contest that could have just as easily been the Super Bowl last year. The Commanders obviously fell short, but it was, the Commanders made a run that nobody expected. We won't even talk about the fact that they took down the Lions in the division round, but it was, they came on strong, and this could have been the Super Bowl. And I think the Commanders are going to be very strong here in 2025. So that's a game I'm really looking forward to. I think week 8 has a lot of, is week 8 the week that has a lot of buys, has the most buys this year. So I think, you're not going to have a lot of choices that week, but this game is certainly one that is worth watching. And then finally, week 17, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Buffalo Bills. Could this possibly be a matchup for the Super Bowl this year? Possibly, but I think that's going to be an excellent contest. These are two teams that are going to be in it, and I think this game could this game actually mean something to one of these teams if they're competing for a playoff berth. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So, Pudge, do you have a different slate for fantasy, or do you want to talk about one of those other games?
No, I was actually going to bring up the Commanders, and they might be handing Mike McDaniel a new job. I know after a couple international games last year or the year before, coaches came home unemployed from the country they had just visited. So they are going to play in Madrid, Spain. That's their first time there. And I would love to see Jaden Daniels hand Mr. McDaniel a pink slip. And I love the Dolphins, and they just look like a Mickey Mouse team now. They can't hold the locker room or anything like that. So I'd love to see the Commanders beat down on the Dolphins out there.
Yeah, that will be an excellent contest as well. One of the ones that was kind of an honorable mention, like I said, I just kind of picked for the contest. Another one, I think, and I don't have the week, I can't recall the week now, is when the Commanders and Eagles play. That is obviously going to be a phenomenal contest as well. So do you have a different slate for fantasy?
As far as...
You're muted.
Sorry. This is an exciting game we're playing today.
Yes.
Always, it's going to be always the top offenses. When top offenses go off in each other, it's going to be awesome to see the Lions and Minnesota. It's going to be awesome to see a team like, hopefully the Raiders this year can be that offense. I would love to see them in the Chargers. The Chargers are going to be another offense that I think is really going to have a lot of fantasy relevant players. So those division games I think are going to be huge. As far as my fantasy slate, I will be eyeing those games, and I will be not picking those defenses at all. For those of us that still play with defenses, but I'd run in fear with any of those AFC West division games. I'd get out of those pretty quick. But start all your fantasy studs, because those division rivalries out there in the AFC West and the NFC East and the NFC North are just going to be fantasy bonanzas.
Well, for me, the two contests that I want to check out are both in week 1. The first is Raiders at the Patriots. Now, that is predominantly, I want to see, is Ashton Jeanty worth the 1 overall? So how does he do in his first contest as a Raider? Then the second contest that I want to watch week 1 is Titans at Broncos. The question is, will Cam Ward be the starter out of the gate? There's still some question whether or not he will actually assume that role at the beginning of this season. And then finally, another contest, will pit two of those teams that I just talked about. Week 6, Titans at the Raiders. Again, I'm a little bit excited about the Raiders. It's funny because I always said any team that played in Las Vegas, I would be rooting for them. And I've not been a huge fan of the Las Vegas Raiders, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how Pete Carroll and some of these draft picks work out when they play this season. So that is a contest I really want to watch, because I really think that some of those players, everybody's sleeping on Jacoby Myers for whatever reason. I think he's a sneaky pick. I've been picking him up where I can in some of my drafts. And I think, I think there's opportunities for Raider players to actually contribute in fantasy this year. Do you think I'm crazy?
Brock Bowers, number 1 overall tight end.
Well, yes.
I mean, with the upgrade at quarterback over there with Geno Smith, the offensive line play should be better. I know they ranked really bad. I think they were 32nd in PFF as far as their offensive line play last year. But to get the run game going, it usually takes a year to 2 years for those guys to gel and mesh. Now they've been gelling and meshing, so I mean, it's now or never. But this team was so uninteresting at the end of last year, and now they have. I kudos to the Las Vegas Raiders, because they made this team a very, very interesting team to watch this year.
Yeah, I really like the way that we talked about that a couple of weeks back, where, they kept trading back, accumulating picks, and then they parlayed those into some good selections. So I really am looking forward to seeing how the Raiders do this year. Of course, they are in a very tough division, so that makes it difficult for them to succeed. But again, that division is, especially with Denver coming on again, they're competitive. With the Chargers and their moves, I just think, and Kansas City being Kansas City, I just think that the division is arguably the toughest, if not the second toughest division in the NFL. So just going over real quick, I want to just rattle through these. Thanksgiving, Christmas slate of games. Thanksgiving, Packers at Lions, Chiefs at Cowboys, Bengals at Ravens. Which one of those three do you like? Which one do you want to watch on Thanksgiving, setting aside your Lions fandom?
Bengals Ravens, easy. That game is going to light up fantasy scoreboards. What did I say? Those in division games with those two top 5 offenses. Trey Hendrickson, as we already said, is not at camp. It's going to take him half a season to get into it if he holds out. These guys are going to kill it. Look at Derrick Henry. He's just got the new contract, and he's going to eat a turkey leg and a turducken over there on Thanksgiving Day.
Well, for me, I'm going to set aside my Lions fandom, but I'm still going to go with the Packers at Lions, because it is a division rivalry that's going to mean a lot. I think, again, the Lions are not going to run away with the division this year. Just looking at the schedule, I do not see 15 wins in their future. So this is going to be a tight division. And I think this contest could be very, very important and instrumental in catapulting one of these teams into a clear, front runner, as the front runner, excuse me. So I think that's the game that I really want to see on Thanksgiving. I'd be watching it anyway, but I think I do agree with you from a fantasy perspective. Bengals Ravens is very enticing, but from an NFL perspective, I'm really looking forward to the Packers Lions. I think it's going to be an excellent game. So now on Christmas, we have Cowboys at Commanders, Lions at Vikings, and then Broncos at Chiefs. What's your game?
I'll take the Dallas game. I think Dallas is going to be good. I don't want to say that. We have had our doubts early this spring, and their Tyler Booker is gonna be pretty good. They added Pickens. I want to see this offense, and we already know what the Commanders can do. They're gonna put up points, and it's gonna be a fun game to watch. It's not gonna be a snooze fest.
Well, I'm going to be all snuggled in for the evening after watching the Lions-Vikes game and after consuming entirely way too much food. I am very excited about the Broncos-Chiefs game. Again, for the same reason for Thanksgiving, this could be an important game. I think the Broncos, what they did last year and what they are likely to do this year, they're going to be competitive. And I think that this could be a contest that could be very important for the Broncos, even if they don't win the division, to try to secure a wild card. So I think that this is going to be a very competitive, exciting game to watch. And again, that's more from my NFL fandom than it is from a fantasy perspective. But I think that when I saw that game on Christmas, I immediately circled it and said, yeah, this is one that I am definitely going to be watching. I don't usually watch a lot of night games. My wife, she gets to a certain time on the clock and she says, yeah, you're done watching football. But this is, especially if it's not the Lions, but this is a game I'm going to be watching. So, but I am thankful for the gift of the NFL schedule. It is truly a reason to celebrate. And at least for me, what is a better way to celebrate than with beer? So, Pudge, as always, you kick us off with your incredible, palatable beer selection of the week.
I sense some sarcasm in my delicious taste buds in my Bush apple. The crisp. Oh, did you hear that?
I heard it.
It sounded amazing. Do you know how hot it is outside? It's 85 degrees outside. Not in this can. Oh.
I think your brain cells are frozen cold.
That was delicious. It was like Christmas in a can.
And I'm sure you're quite thankful for that. Well, I am thankful for this beer by Southern Grist Brewing out of Nashville, Tennessee. This beer is the Always Something. It is a oated New England style double Indian pale ale. It's brewed with Citra, El Dorado, and Raku hops. And by the way, I have to correct something I said. I was so busy watching Pudge's video and the latency that was causing it that I kept using the word latency to describe my beer when I meant lacing, not latency. So for all of those who really, truly know something about beer who were laughing at me last week, well, I've corrected myself, and I apologize. But again, Southern Grist is another brewery that I drink frequently. It is I really enjoy their IPAs. They have some other beers that are not my favorites, but the IPAs I will go for each and every time. So to you, Pudge, and your Bush, what was it, Green Apple? Cheers.
I did want to, we did have one question. I don't know. Do we got enough time to cover that today? We got one question.
Absolutely.
Tyson over here started off with a question right at the beginning of the show, and we kind of got past it pretty quick. The question is, I have the 101 and the rookie draft. He's got Genty's eyeing up. He can't win. He needs running back depth. I need a little bit more than this. Is it super flex? Is it not super flex? If you were going, I'm taking 102, 204 in the future first. With the 102, I'm taking Omarion Hampton. With the 204, you've got guys. You can get your running back depth. I don't know what your wide receivers look like, but if you don't have wide receivers, the 102, absolutely take Tet McMillan. That's my wide receiver one for this draft. I would take Genty and punt to 102, 204 in the future first. I think it's a solid offer.
I mean, with the short shelf lives of running backs, yes, Gianti can probably offer you a ton over the next few years. However, if you're not in a position to win, and you want to build a team, and Gianti is not going to help you now. So again, I agree. If you can get 102, there's plenty of players at 102. Plus, in the early part of round 2, I'm assuming this is a 12-teamer. And that you're going linear. So I'm assuming you're talking 16. There's plenty there that can help you build a team. As much as I would love Gente, if I'm rebuilding, I'm taking that deal. And some may say that you might want to turn around and try to get more, and you may be able to do that. I know a lot of the guys that I play with, trying to squeeze out anything that's going to be worth it. I mean, great. You can get a 4th rounder out of it or a 5th rounder. That's not going to help you at all. I would just, I would jump on it and rebuild, knowing you're going to be able to take somebody solid at 102. Like you said, taking Tet, if you said you needed running back depth, so you can go Hampton and then even come back around and take a couple of the tier 2 or tier 3 running backs that might be available at the beginning of the 2nd round. That will help you build that. Like I said, if this were a wide receiver or a different position or quarterback, it'd be different. But when you're talking about running back, the short shelf lives of running backs, the short careers, that just scares me. And so I would definitely take this deal as well.
Those running backs situation rooms, Javonte Williams, Darius Geis. I mean, these guys are sure guys, and they are the top of the dynasty echelon. But what if they don't translate well to the NFL? Or what if they J.K. Dobbins themselves? Or it happens. Take the picks, figure it out, and you live to fight another day, but you don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Agreed. All right. So I love drinking a delicious. Oh, thank you. And yes, I did. Justin, I did. I mean, how do you not sigh when Pudge is presenting that beer? But I absolutely agree that I probably did that unintentionally. So I love drinking a delicious beer, especially during a fantasy draft. But what happens when you imbibe a bit too much before or during the draft? Now, friends do not let friends drink and draft unless that friend is in your fantasy league draft. Home league festivities that start well before the draft. We've done this before. I mean, Pudge, you've been in enough of my drafts. You know that I have a penchant for, kicking it off a little too early. You've seen me do that.
I've never seen you draft 2 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league if your quarterback's already kept and you take Aaron Rodgers in the first round.
Yeah, so I actually do remember that, and that has haunted me for a while. Yes, I had a keeper league. Already had kept Deshaun Watson, had 2 first-round picks, and I don't even remember who the third quarterback was, but I took a quarterback and then came back in like 110 and took Aaron Rodgers, and I still have not lived that one down. I'm giving crap about that on a regular basis, but and that was alcohol induced. I'm surprised I even made it to the end of that particular draft, but I just think it's one of those things where, drinking is great, but when you drink too much, it can really, really cause problems when you start making really stupid moves. Have you ever woke up the next day and either you realize you made a stupid move, or worse yet, you had no idea who you even drafted?
I traded you Ashton Genty on we had a couple of libations that night. You are a man of honor, and you actually said, "Are you sure about this?" But I am the new shiny owner of Trey McBride, and a couple of ancillary picks. But I'm also not. I'm in a rebuild, so I figured I'd give up Mr. Genty for a tight end pillar. But yeah, that was should not have done that. Probably should have rescinded that, but them drinks will get you.
Yeah, it was actually a closer trade than I would have thought after I reviewed, just kind of reviewed it and mulled it over. But at the time, I thought you were nuts. You did send it to me late the night before, and I kept looking at it, and I just kind of sat on it. And then we were at a brewery, I believe, the next day, and I pushed over my phone. Are you really sure you want to do this? And I don't even think you remember doing it, because when you said what trade, and I had to push it over to you. So alcohol can really play a negative role, well, in a lot of things in life. But it certainly can play a negative role when it comes to drafting and or trading. I remember trading away Dalvin Cook in his prime because I was angry about his performance. I was also angry at the Michigan State Spartans. I was watching a basketball game at a brewery and was quite upset, and ended up moving Dalvin Cook for, I don't remember. It was a horrible trade on my part. I'm the one that offered it. And, the only thing was the next season, or that season, I believe I'm sorry, it was the following season. He went down in week 3, which I never root for injuries, but it was definitely something that at least I, knew that I avoided that. But yeah, alcohol is definitely not a place where is definitely not something where you want to make sure that you are drafting and that you are trading when you are sober. The Fantasy Now Plus Super League Marathon podcast is next week. I will have more information on our show next week, and then shortly after our show next week, I believe it begins. Again, more information to come. However, if you go to fantasynowplus.com, more information will be provided on the website. Pudge and I will both make appearances during the marathon. Some of us, I think there was a couple times when you are together and where we overlap, but other times we're on our own. Is that correct? Or with others, but not together?
No, we're not together. And I think we started off together at 8:00, and we'll periodically be in bouncing around. I know that you do a lot of the early stuff. I am on some of the later stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. Got some big things coming in. I know Justin is going to be playing Madden, maybe. I don't know. I think he was going to be playing Madden or something like that. But Justin, you're going to be on there for 24 hours? Ooh.
Hey, it was definitely his idea. He has to sneak in a nap somewhere in there. For those of us old enough to remember the old Jerry Lewis telethons when he was up all day and he would sneak away and take a nap, I'm sure he'll do that.
I want to see that bedhead.
It is for charity, that's for sure. By the way, I do want to go back and on a note that Justin said, and then we have to move along here. But yeah, it's funny because I just got done saying running backs have short lives, and then I made that trade with Pudge. So I agree with you, Pudge, if you want to throw that one up there. But you're right. Genty may have 5 to 7 years. Elite tight ends do last forever. So maybe in the end, Pudge is going to get the better of me in that trade. So. That's an excellent point, Justin. But yes, so going back to the Fantasy Now Plus, the Super League Marathon podcast, if you want to participate in the Fantasy Now Plus Super Leagues, I believe there are still spots available. To find out more information, please go to the fantasynowplus.com website. Again, proceeds benefit the Children's Miracle Network. Pudge, where can people find you on social media? You are muted again.
We can never do this together again.
This will never happen again.
On Blue Sky, I am FFLaPudge. FantasyNowPlus.com. I got it this week. And I'm over on X at FFLaPudge. Check me out over there. Shoot me any kind of questions, comments, concerns. If you have a delicious beer that you want Jeff to not taste and you want me to taste, let me know. I will gladly try and find it.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, it's easy for you to remember how to, to say to provide your Blue Sky handle when it's typed right in front of you. Although I messed that up last week. I messed up lacing and I messed up my handle. So you can find me on X at FFCommish_YIS or on Blue Sky at FFCommishYIS.fantasynowplus.com. I want to thank everybody for listening. We went a little long this episode, but thank you for hanging in there with us. Our next episode will be Friday, May 23 at 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific. Follow Fantasy Now Plus on YouTube, X, and Blue Sky, and subscribe to this channel. Until next time, for CJ Pudge LaPage, I am Jeffrey Crisp. Be good, be responsible, and cheers.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.